On Tuesday, the Edmonton Oilers saw game action for the first time in 139 days. Well, today, Jack and Bob, their first time appearing on the panel in 157 days as we welcome back hockey. As we are pleased to join you to the panel here at Stantec Tower, just outside of Rogers Place in Ice District, here with the voices of the Oilers, Jack Michaels and Bob Stauffer. Gentlemen, the Oilers starting off on a good note on Tuesday against their provincial rivals, defeating the Flames 4-1. Bob, what did you see? I know it's a lot to dissect out of one exhibition game, but what did you see from the Oilers?
Same thing I think we saw during the course of the training camp, Tony, and that's that the Edmonton Oilers have got some speed up front, and they came out of the gates and they were flying. Like they were really going, really pushing the pace. I do think people talk about home ice advantage, and I know we're going to hit on this a little bit later on, but I think that it might play a factor with goaltenders, and both goalies were outstanding. Some of the 5-on-5 play and transition play for the middle 35 minutes of the game wasn't great, and then the Oilers got a break and sealed it. So good overall performance, lots to work with for the coach.
I think we saw a lot of the things we saw during the truncated regular season. Edmonton's an opportunistic club. That's a euphemism for saying you give the Oilers just a few chances and they're going to end up in the back of your net. I mean, Edmonton was outshot 28-14 in the last two periods of that game, but the Oilers still put together 7 or 8 quality chances, and a couple ended up in the back of the net. I think it's a nice little boost for Patrick Russell to get a goal and an assist there inside of a minute. He had a bit of a snake bit regular season, including scoring what would have been his first NHL goal that was taken off the board. So it's nice to get him going. And you know what? He's not a guy who's necessarily going to be out of the lineup when Edmonton plays Chicago. He may very well draw in. Dave Tippett likes what he brings and knows that he doesn't hurt the club defensively whatsoever. Bob's point about the goaltenders is a good one, but it also holds true for the Chicago Blackhawks. Corey Crawford gave him a good start the other night against St. Louis. The Hawks were also impressive. So in short, we're expecting a tremendous best-of-5 series, which quite frankly shouldn't surprise us. When the draws came out, that was one of the series that immediately jumped out at the page, and not just because I happen to call games for the Oilers.
Just a note on Corey Crawford. He turned aside all 11 shots he saw against the Blues. He and Malcolm Subban combining to stop 21 saves on that night, combining for the shutout. Now let's talk about that crease matchup, but let's talk about the matchup in the Oilers side of things. Dave Tippett really has 2 viable options, Bob.
He does, and he's got Mike Smith, who's obviously, Tony, got a history of having success in the playoffs. I mean, he was really good for Calgary last year. He helped take what was then, Phoenix to a conference final a number of years ago. An experienced guy, and Koskinen, as Jack alluded to during our broadcast, has had historically great numbers in the playoffs over in the KHL. I don't know who he's going to start. Like, I'll be honest with you. I might think Smith might start, but the fact that Koskinen started the exhibition game might have me thinking the other way. So,
and he was perfect.
And he was right. So, I don't know where you're coming on that one, Jack. I think the fact is, I think in the best of 5 against Chicago, it's entirely possible that we might see both goaltenders.
Well, and Dave Tippett has said that from the get-go. The appearances during the regular season, the breakdown would seem to indicate that. I mean, 39 for Smith, 38 for Koskinen. And even in a short series, Edmonton plans to utilize its biggest advantage in this series, which is depth at every position, something Chicago does not have. As far as the goaltending matchup, Tony, Chicago's only chances for Corey Crawford to play to a 93 save percentage. Now, the bad news for Edmonton is he did that for his last 20 starts. But the good news is if they can get to him, there is no recourse for Jeremy Colton. Malcolm Subban, to this point, has not proven he can be a reliable NHL goaltender. Edmonton has a pair who can. If Crawford gives Chicago quality starts, that will perk up the ears of guys like Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews and give Chicago a fighting chance in this series. But if Crawford is below that level, I think this is going to be an extremely short series.
It's interesting. You take a look at the series, and if you're an Edmonton partisan, you're saying, well, they can't match both McDavid and Draisaitl. Jonathan Toews can't play against both those guys, Tony. And we'd be in a situation where one of Kirby Dach or Dylan Strome. My guess is, based upon where Ryan Nugent-Hopkins plays, right now he's going to be with McDavid. I think that's who Jonathan Toews is going to end up getting.
Leon Draisaitl versus either of the two you mentioned, Bob. I don't like that from a Chicago perspective either.
The one thing, and I'm sort of hearing some rumblings on this, is there is some confidence in the Chicago camp with their depth scoring. They got a lot of, you look at DeBrincat on the wing and the emergence of Kubalik this season. Brandon Saad's a veteran. Nylander's kind of emerged a bit as well. I think they think lines 3 and 4, they might be able to win those battles. They want to play a 5-on-5 game because the Oilers had the best special teams in the league. So, they got to have a belief that they can win, and I think their belief is that they can win the 5-on-5 battle.
Backtracking to the start of Phase 3, Jack, Bob, you guys have both been in the building watching the Oilers scrimmages and obviously the game on Tuesday. Jack, for you, who has really stood out and who might be the X factor on the Oilers side of things here?
I mean, at the risk of being a broken record, the guy who stood out is the guy who had a quote-unquote summer of training for the first time in 2 years, and that's 97. This isn't breaking news. Connor McDavid's been terrific. And if Connor McDavid is terrific in this series, again, I don't see Chicago being able to hang with Edmonton, and not just from the forward matchups like Bob's talking about. I mean, Connor Murphy and Calvin DeHaan as a second pair playing against one of Edmonton's top 2 lines, that to me looks like an egregious mismatch. I mean, Calvin DeHaan hasn't even played since December. He's coming off major shoulder surgery, and that's who you throw him in against. And Connor Murphy, I've had kind of some questions about whether he's a viable top 4 in a playoff series for some time. So that'll be interesting. What I've seen from Edmonton's camp is, even at this time of year, guys are pushing one another. Andreas Athanasiou, that's the X factor. You ask me, he has, I think, in terms of potential not reached with this Oiler lineup, Athanasiou has the highest ceiling. And he might translate, if he can find a role and be productive in that role, that might push Edmonton into the very short list of legitimate Stanley Cup contenders, because he has elite level talent when he's going.
Yeah, just for me, Athanasiou is a total wild card. I don't know what to expect. Sheehan's health is going to be a concern because he can kill penalties. I do think Gaetan Haas has had a real good camp. Broberg, I've been watching the Edmonton Oilers in the NHL since 1979-80. In the last 30 years, there hasn't been a defenseman come into camp and look like that at 19. And he's playing against NHL guys. This isn't like going to rookie camp and then going to the main camp with 60 guys. And then,
he's got that NHL body, Bob.
Yeah, he's 6'3". He's filled out, thick kid already. Oilers fans should be really excited about him. But Athanasiou, for me, is the guy to watch.
When I look at the Oilers' D-core, how many teams in the Stanley Cup playoffs can say they've got 5 of the 6 back from a playoff appearance 3 years ago? So they're actually kind of both young and well-seasoned. You've still got guys like Chris Russell who played more than 800 games on your third pair. Matt Benning's an underrated defenseman, and if you go strictly by metrics, there's not many guys in Edmonton's lineup who have a better chances for and against ratio than Matt Benning, and he's in your third pair. Darnell Nurse can make life difficult for a guy like Patrick Kane. He can be an irritant to play against, and not just an irritant, a guy you don't want to play against. Adam Larson needs to fill that role as well, and then you've got the puck movers that we've all talked about in Caleb Jones, guys that are going to move the puck on a consistent basis, and maybe the most underrated one to this point is Ethan Bear. On many nights, he's starting to look like not only a top 4 defenseman, but pushing Oscar Klefbom for the top D-man on the team. That's pretty impressive for a rookie.
Yeah, for me, in training camp and in the exhibition game, it hasn't been close. Ethan Bear has been the Oilers' best defenseman. That's the one guy that wasn't in the playoffs back in 2016-17. We're watching the emergence of a guy that has a chance to be a legitimate number 2/3 right shot defenseman, and he's it's just the quickness and his decisiveness with the puck and the calm that he makes plays with. I mean, the Oilers have got Bouchard and Broberg coming. They're going to play, and they're going to be good, and they're big, and they're going to play in the top 4. There's no doubt about that. But in the here and now, right now, one of the we've had 2 significant game changers that maybe we didn't know about at the start of the season, way back when. Obviously, Bears one and Yamamoto's the other, and that's part of the reason why Oilers fans are so excited.
Well, they're also excited for Game 1 on Saturday, and the voices.
We're excited.
I know. I can't wait. Hockey is officially back. Jack and Bob will always have the call for you on 6:30 Chat. As always, we'll have you covered right here on Oilers TV and EdmontonOilers.com. For Jack and Bob, I'm Tony Brar signing off for the panel.